I'm unpacking the post-COVID tech industry report 2021 a little more, and I'm about to be joined by Caspar Craven so we can take a look at new business models after the pandemic and work-life balance. I want to talk about these topics because in just a few short months, COVID-19 transformed people's lives on an unprecedented scale, impacting every industry and altering the course of companies' growth. The impact may mean new business models after the pandemic and changes to work-life balance as well. Now, Caspar Craven believes in challenging conventional thinking on how leaders and teams become truly effective and create extraordinary results. He's built 3 successful million-dollar businesses from scratch and sold one while sailing the Pacific Ocean. So, Caspar, what changes are you seeing to business models after the pandemic?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Clearly, there's been a ton of disruption, and I'm seeing a whole range of different reactions to how people are thinking about getting back into work at the moment. There's some organizations where they have been experiencing all the challenges of mental health and productivity not being what it was back in the old world as we used to know it. And I'm seeing a lot of businesses where they are desperate to get back into the workplace. And then clearly they're having had a year now of training to work on Zoom and Teams and so on. And suddenly people are finding, actually, this works quite well for us. So there's a real mix of sort of, let's stay as we are, let's get back in the office, and then clearly the hybrid things in the middle. But what I think that we're going to see is there is definitely going to be a shift from where things were before. Whether it's a 5% shift, a 10% shift, there's definitely going to be a change to how much office space is needed, how we're going to work together. So that's very much in terms of the working environments. In terms of actual business models, I think we're seeing all sorts of innovation coming through at the moment, and people thinking differently about, their changing customer preferences, what their customers need. And I think that's a huge opportunity for businesses to innovate and create new products, new services to the market as it's adapting at the moment.
So how have you seen that the pandemic affect people's work-life balance?
Yeah, clearly it's been a big one, right? And I think that there's been every single reaction under the sun from people who've had the most challenged times of their lives in ways that are hard to imagine, to people who absolutely thrived in this working environment because it's ideally suited towards the way that they work. So it's very hard to give a blanket answer because there's literally every range and reaction under the sun there. But what I think is super important is that so many organizations have found what I describe as their human touch, and remember that it's people who drive results. And there's had to be this dial up, this focus on making sure that the people are okay, that your teams of people are okay, and really checking in with them. And we're seeing, I think, lots of organizations have dialed that right up. And as things start to head back to wherever we're going to be in the future, I just really hope that we retain that sense of humanity, of making sure that each and every person on your team is okay, their mental health, their physical health, how they're interacting with a team of people around them. But I just really hope that that stays front and center, because that's what's going to drive our results going forward.
And how can leaders support their teams so that they can achieve their work goals whilst having a healthy home life too?
So look, for the individual teams that we work in, I don't think there's anything more powerful than asking the open questions and really listening to what's coming back, what's important to each and every person, listening to what's being said, and crucially, what's not being said. It's so easy in our digital world, in our 2D world, right, to misread the cues, the things that are going on for different people out there. So I think that the more that we listen and make sure that we're playing that back to demonstrate that we really understand what's going on for each of our teams, that builds trust, that builds engagement, that builds loyalty. And I think, what we're going to see as we head towards the back end of, hopefully the back end of the pandemic and coming out of it, the organizations who've looked after their teams the best are the ones that are going to attract clients, they're going to attract the talent. What do they say? No one ever leaves a ship in a storm, right? And I think that as times start to get better, then we will start to see the impact of how people have been looking after their teams. But I think, yeah, listening, really caring, really understanding, that sits very much at the heart of it.
You've touched on this a little already, talking about the humanity. How can we retain this sort of humanity that many businesses have found during COVID?
So there's a couple of things on that. I think the first thing is trying to shift the mindset that has been prevalent in the working world for so long, that it's profits first and we try to drive people. And the more I think that we get the sense that if we get people in the right roles, are working on projects, companies, purposes that have real meaning for them, where people absolutely play to their strengths, then that's when we get the real stellar growth, when companies really start to take off. So actually, it's probably the single best thing for business to put people first and to really care about them. So that's on the one side of things. The other side of things is just the right thing to do, isn't it? To make sure that all of our people are okay. So I think it's making sure that we're having a conversation around that. And then just remembering, right, we're all human beings. What would you do? How would you feel if the situation were the other way around? What would a real human being do in this situation? So I think it's keeping it as a current conversation is absolutely critical to this.
Caspar, I really do appreciate your time exploring the topics of new business models after the pandemic and work-life balance. Thank you. I'll include a link in the video description to the post-COVID Tech Industry Report 2021, so you can learn more about the many changes affecting the tech industry. I'll also include a link where you can find out more about Caspar Craven, including his bio, more videos, and details about his speaking topics. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and remember to subscribe to the channel so you can see more videos like this.